I wasn't supposed to be home. That's the only reason I'm still alive. I had already driven halfway to work when I realized my wallet wasn't in my bag. I remember being annoyed, not scared. Just another careless morning. I turned the car around, pulled into the driveway, and walked inside quietly, planning to grab it and leave. The house felt normal, safe, familiar, until I heard his voice. Low, intimate, coming from our bedroom. "We'll increase the dose tonight," my husband whispered. I froze in the hallway. For a second, my brain refused to understand what I'd just heard. Increase the dose? Of what? Then a woman answered him. "Are you sure she hasn't noticed?" My chest tightened so hard it actually hurt to breathe. He gave a soft laugh. The same laugh he used when he held me after a bad day. The same laugh that used to make me feel safe. "No," he said. "Nora trusts me." My name sounded wrong in his mouth. Not loving, not warm, disposable. That's when I realized they were talking about me. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The hallway suddenly felt like thin ice under my feet. "Soon," he continued quietly, "everything will be ours." Ours. Not mine. Not his. Ours. Years of marriage collapsed into that single word. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was how calm I felt. My fingers slowly released the doorframe, and I stepped backward, one silent step at a time, until I was outside again. They never even knew I had been there. I sat in my car, staring at my hands. They weren't shaking. That scared me more than anything. Then my phone buzzed. "Ethan Redhart. Did you make it to work safe?" I stared at the message for a long time. My husband had just lied to me while standing 10 feet away from me. I should have confronted him right then. I didn't. Not because I was afraid. Because I needed him to feel safe. People make mistakes when they feel safe. And I suddenly had the terrifying feeling that if I waited, he would make a very big one. I gave it 12 minutes. Exactly 12. Then I walked back inside, this time letting the front door close normally. My keys hit the console bowl with their usual metallic clink. "Ethan?" I called casually. Footsteps. Then the bedroom door opened. He stepped into the hallway, adjusting his shirt, already wearing the version of himself he wanted me to see. Warm. Familiar. Loving. "Hey," he smiled. "You forgot something?" His eyes flicked to my hands. Checking. Measuring. "My wallet," I said, holding it up slightly. He laughed softly. "You'd forget your own head if I didn't remind you." Then he kissed my cheek. His lips were warm. Practiced. Perfect. I almost shivered. "I thought you had a meeting this morning," I said carefully. "It got pushed," he replied smoothly. No hesitation. Not even half a second. Too smooth. He walked past me into the kitchen like nothing in the world was wrong. Too calm. Too normal. That's when I noticed something else. "How are you feeling today?" he asked without looking at me. Not "how was your drive?" Not "why did you come back?" "How are you feeling?" My chest tightened again, because suddenly that question didn't sound like concern. It sounded like data collection. I thought it was over. I was wrong. That night, I pretended to fall asleep before him. My breathing slow, heavy, predictable. After about 10 minutes, I felt his hand touch my shoulder gently. Testing. I didn't move. Another minute passed. Then, he carefully slipped out of bed. The bedroom door opened, then clicked shut with slow precision. I waited 5 seconds. Then I followed. The hallway was dark, but his voice carried from the kitchen in a low whisper. "Yes," he said. "She's asleep." My stomach dropped. "No, she hasn't noticed anything." A pause. Then quieter. "I increased it last week like you told me." Increased it. My hand pressed against the wall to steady myself. I couldn't hear the woman clearly this time, but I heard his response. "I know," he murmured. "But once it's done, everything transfers to me anyway." Transfers. Ownership. Finality. That's when I realized something that turned my blood cold. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was preparing to replace me. I slipped back into bed before he returned, forcing my body to stay still when he lay beside me again. His hand rested lightly on my arm, feeling my pulse tracking it. Waiting. Morning came like nothing had happened. Sunlight poured into the kitchen while Ethan stood at the counter, stirring a cup of coffee. He looked peaceful. Ordinary. Dangerous. Morning, he said softly, handing me a mug. I made yours. I took it slowly. The ceramic was warm. Familiar. The same mug I'd used every morning for years. But this time, something felt different. And I had no idea, yet just how dangerous that cup really was. What happened next changed everything. I held the mug in both hands, letting the warmth seep into my fingers. For a moment, everything looked normal. Sunlight through the window. The quiet hum of the refrigerator. My husband standing across from me in sweatpants, watching me with soft eyes. Anyone else would have believed this was love. But I knew better now. Did you already have yours? I asked casually. He nodded, lifting his own cup. That's when I noticed it. His coffee was lighter. More cream. Mine was darker. Untouched. And he was watching my hands. Not openly. Not obviously. But closely. Measuring every movement. I raised the mug toward my lips. Paused. Then lowered it slightly. Still hot, I said. He smiled gently. Give it a minute. His voice was calm. Controlled. Confident. Like he knew time was on his side. That's when a cold realization slid through me. He wasn't worried about whether I'd drink it. Because, in his mind, I already had been. I set the mug down and turned toward the sink, pretending to rinse a spoon. Behind me, I felt his shoulders relax. Relief. And in that moment, the truth locked into place inside my chest. He didn't need to rush. Because he thought I was already dying on schedule. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was what I decided next. I didn't stop drinking his coffee abruptly. That would have raised suspicion. Instead, I performed. Every morning, I'd bring the mug to my lips, tilt it slightly, let him see the motion. Then later, when he wasn't looking, I'd pour it down the sink, into the soil of the plant on the back porch, anywhere but inside me. He never questioned it, because he didn't think he needed to. 3 days later, during lunch, I drove to a private clinic across town. Paid cash. No insurance trail. No explanations. The nurse drew my blood and asked routine questions. I gave routine answers. But inside, my heart was pounding so hard I thought she might hear it. 2 hours later, she came back with a paper in her hand. And a different expression on her face. Miss Carter, she said carefully, are you prescribed any sedatives? My stomach dropped. No. She hesitated, then turned the paper toward me. Your levels are elevated, she said. This indicates repeated exposure. Consistent dosing over time. The words blurred after that. Not suspicion. Not theory. Proof. Someone had been drugging me. For weeks. Maybe longer. I walked back to my car and just sat there, staring at the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. Ethan Redheart. Did you drink your coffee this morning? Redheart. Not how's your day. Not I love you. Just that. Monitoring. Progress check. That's when something inside me shifted. For the first time since I met him, I realized he believed he was winning. And they had no idea what I was about to do. I hired a lawyer that same afternoon. Not just any lawyer. Someone Ethan trusted. Daniel Reeves had handled our home purchase, our wills, our joint accounts. He'd sat across from us at dinner, laughing at Ethan's jokes, clinking glasses with us on anniversaries. He never expected to hear what I told him. My husband has been drugging me, I said, sliding the toxicology report across his desk. Daniel didn't interrupt. He read every line first. Then he looked up at me. Do not confront him, he said calmly. Not yet. That word mattered. Yet. He explained everything carefully. Evidence. Documentation. Timeline. Protection. If you confront him now, he continued, he'll deny it. If you wait, he'll expose himself. I nodded slowly, because suddenly I understood something. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was strategy. That night, I went home and played my role perfectly. Slower movements. Longer pauses. Forgetting small things intentionally. Ethan noticed. I saw it in his eyes. Relief. Confirmation. At dinner, I let my fork slip slightly from my fingers. You okay? He asked softly. Concern in his voice. Interest in his eyes. I'm just tired, I murmured. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Comforting. Reassuring. Cruel. Because in his mind, it was working. He was already living in the future he wanted. The one where I wasn't there anymore. He smiled at me gently. And I smiled back. Because he had no idea, I had already started removing him from everything. Within 48 hours, Daniel moved fast. My personal accounts were secured. My life insurance beneficiary changed. My will rewritten. Every asset Ethan thought he would inherit was already out of his reach. Legally. Quietly. Irreversibly. At home, Ethan continued his routine. Coffee every morning. Soft voice. Careful watching. Patience. He thought he was ahead. One night, he handed me my mug and stood there longer than usual. You've seemed weaker lately, he said gently. I nodded. Just tired. He stepped closer, resting his hand on my chest, feeling my heartbeat, counting, waiting. I'm here, he whispered. The words sounded loving. But they weren't for me. They were for him. Reassurance that his plan was still on track. Later that night, he fell asleep beside me, breathing deep and peaceful. Certain. I waited until 2:17 a.m. Then I carefully reached over and picked up his phone. They had no idea. I was about to find the truth. And what I saw next was worse than anything I imagined. His phone unlocked instantly with his fingerprint while he slept. He had never imagined he needed to hide anything from a woman he believed was slowly dying. For a second, I just stared at the screen, my reflection faint in the glass, my heart pounding so loudly I was afraid it might wake him. Then I opened his messages. One thread. No name. Just a number. My stomach tightened before I even clicked it. And the moment I did, everything inside me went cold. Ethan. She's getting weaker. Unknown. Good. Stay consistent with the dosage. Ethan, I am. Morning is easiest. Morning. Coffee. My hands started shaking. But that wasn't even the worst part. I kept scrolling. Photos. Documents. Voice notes. Plans. Detailed plans. Unknown. Once she's gone, the accounts transfer automatically? Ethan? Yes. Everything goes to me. A pause in the conversation. Then the message that made my chest feel hollow. Ethan, after that, we can finally start our life. Our life. Not ours as in marriage. Ours as in replacement. I kept scrolling. Further back. Weeks. Months. And then I saw her name. Lena. My younger sister. For a moment, my brain refused to process it. No. No, that couldn't be right. I opened her contact photo. It was her. Smiling. The same smile she'd had since childhood. The same girl I used to braid hair with before school. The same sister I had defended my entire life. My lungs stopped working. I thought it was over. I was wrong. Because the betrayal wasn't just my husband. It was blood. I scrolled further. Voice note. My finger hovered over the play button. Then I pressed it. Lena's voice filled the silence of the room. Soft. Familiar. Intimate. Just don't rush it, she said. If she declines slowly, no one will question anything. By the time they realize, everything will already be yours. A quiet laugh followed. And ours. I nearly dropped the phone. My sister. My husband. Planning my death together. That's when something inside me snapped. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Like a thread breaking. I set the phone back exactly where it had been. Matched the angle. Matched the position. Then I lay back down beside him. His arm moved slightly in his sleep, resting across my waist. Possessive. Familiar. Monstrous. And in that moment, staring at the ceiling in the dark, I realized something terrifying. They weren't just trying to take my money. They were trying to erase me. But they had no idea what I was about to do. The next morning, I gave them one more performance. Ethan stood in the kitchen, humming softly while stirring my coffee. Sunlight fell across his face. He looked peaceful.
Certain.
Like the ending had already been written. Here, he said gently, handing me the mug. I took it,
Held it.
then set it down untouched. I need to show you something, I said calmly.
He froze.
Not visibly, but I saw it in his eyes.
Fear.
I placed the toxicology report on the counter between us. He looked at the paper, then at me, then back at the paper. His lips parted slightly. No words came out. I know, I said quietly. The room went silent. His entire body changed. Not panic. Not yet. Calculation. Searching for a way out. But there wasn't one. I've already spoken to an attorney, I continued. Everything is documented. Still silence. Still that paper between us. But here's the thing. I wasn't finished. Not even close. Because confronting him wasn't the revenge. It was only the beginning. I picked up my keys and walked toward the door. He didn't follow.
Didn't speak.
Didn't move. Because for the first time since I'd known him, he wasn't in control anymore. And what happened next destroyed both of them. I didn't go far after leaving the house that morning. I just sat in my car at the end of the street, hands on the steering wheel, heart finally starting to catch up with reality. My husband had tried to poison me. My sister had helped him plan it. If someone had told me that a week earlier, I would have laughed. But now I had proof. And proof meant power. That's when I realized something important. I could destroy them legally, but I could also destroy them personally. And they had no idea which one I was about to choose. I drove straight to Daniel's office. He looked up the moment I walked in. You confronted him, he said. I nodded once. And he knows I know. Daniel leaned back slowly, studying my face. Are you safe? Yes, I said. Because he still thinks he has time. That part was true. Ethan didn't know I had stopped drinking the coffee days ago, which meant in his mind, I was still declining.
Still weak.
Still vulnerable.
Perfect.
Daniel folded his hands on the desk. Then we proceed carefully, he said. Because now we can do more than protect you. A small pause. We can expose them. That word sent a strange calm through me. Expose. Not revenge. Justice. But that wasn't even the best part. Because over the next 72 hours, we built a trap. First, Daniel filed emergency financial protections. Joint accounts frozen under fraud review. Property transfer restrictions placed quietly. Insurance beneficiary changes finalized. Every financial outcome Ethan had been planning for was already gone. But we didn't stop there. Daniel contacted a private investigator he trusted. Within 2 days, we had photos. Ethan and Lena meeting at a cafe. Holding hands.
Kissing.
Walking into a hotel together. Evidence. Undeniable. But the most important part of the plan wasn't legal. It was psychological. Because Daniel asked me one question that changed everything. Do you want them arrested immediately, he said, or do you want them to reveal themselves first? Reveal themselves. That meant confession. Motive. Intent. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I wanted. I want them to think they're winning, I said. Daniel nodded slowly. Then we let them. That night, I went home. Ethan was sitting on the couch when I walked in, pretending to watch TV. Concern all over his face. There you are, he said softly. I was worried. Worried. The word almost made me laugh. I just needed air, I replied quietly. I made my movements slower than usual. Let my shoulders slump. Let my voice sound tired. He noticed immediately. Relief flickered across his eyes. Confirmation. At dinner, I barely touched my food. You should eat, he said gently. I'm not hungry. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. That same familiar gesture. Only now it felt like a performance. Because, in his mind, I was fading. And the closer I looked to collapse, the more confident he became. Exactly what I needed. 2 nights later, I took the next step. I invited Lena over. When she walked through the door, she rushed straight toward me, wrapping her arms around me tightly. Oh my God,
she said.
You look exhausted. Are you okay? Her voice was full of concern. Her hands warm on my back. For a split second, muscle memory almost made me hug her back normally. Then I remembered the voice note. If she declines slowly, no one will question anything. I forced a weak smile. I've just been tired, I said. She pulled back, studying my face. And I saw it. Not worry. Assessment. She was checking if the plan was working. That's when I realized something chilling. They weren't just waiting for me to die. They were excited about it. But what happened next, they never saw coming. Dinner was quiet. Ethan and Lena exchanged small glances when they thought I wasn't looking. Signals. Updates. Silent communication. I played my role perfectly. Slow movements. Occasional dizziness. Even letting a glass slip from my fingers at one point. It shattered on the floor. Lena gasped and rushed over. It's okay, she said quickly. It happens. Her voice trembled slightly. Not with fear. With anticipation. That's when I knew. It was time. After dinner, I stood up slowly. I need to sit down, I murmured. Ethan immediately moved to support me. His arm around my shoulders. Gentle. Careful.
Predatory.
We walked into the living room. And that's when I said the words that triggered everything. I've been thinking, I said weakly, about my will. Both of them froze. Just slightly.
But I saw it.
I want to make sure everything goes to you. I continued, looking at Ethan. His pupils actually dilated. Hope.
Greed. Victory.
Lena stayed very still beside him. Listening. Waiting. Hooked. I think I might not have much time, I whispered. And in that moment, they believed they had already won. They had no idea. They had just walked straight into the trap. The room went completely silent after I said it. I think I might not have much time. For a split second, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan squeezed my shoulder gently. Hey, he said softly, don't say that. You're going to be okay. His voice sounded emotional. Convincing. If I didn't know the truth, I would have believed him. But that wasn't even the most disturbing part. The most disturbing part was Lena. She didn't comfort me. She didn't argue. She just watched. Waiting. Calculating. I lowered myself onto the couch slowly, like I didn't have the strength to stand. I just want things to be settled. I continued quietly. So there's no stress later. Ethan nodded immediately. Of course, he said. Whatever you need. Whatever I need. The irony almost made me smile. Because what I needed was already in motion. Right on schedule, there was a knock at the front door. Ethan frowned slightly. Are you expecting someone? I shook my head weakly. No. He stood up and walked toward the door. And the moment he opened it, everything changed. 2 uniformed police officers stood on the porch. Behind them, Daniel, and the private investigator. Ethan's face drained of color instantly. Mr. Hayes, one officer asked calmly. Yes? We need to speak with you. The confusion in his voice was real. Because for the first time since this started, he truly didn't know what was happening. Behind me, Lena stood up slowly. What's going on? She asked. Her voice was tight, controlled, fear trying to stay hidden. Daniel stepped inside, his expression calm but firm. I think you both know exactly what this is about, he said. Ethan turned toward me. And that's when he understood. His eyes locked onto mine.
Wide. Shocked. Betrayed.
The realization hit him all at once. I wasn't dying. I had been playing him. You, he whispered. I stood up. No weakness. No shaking. Just steady. You try to kill me, I said quietly. The words landed like a bomb in a room. Lena's face went pale. Ethan opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. That's insane, he stammered. But Daniel was already handing the officers a folder. Toxicology reports. Financial records. Photos. Messages. Voice recordings. Evidence. Mountains of it. One officer looked at Ethan calmly. You are being detained pending investigation for attempted poisoning and conspiracy. Lena stepped backward. No, she said quickly. This is a misunderstanding. But the investigators spoke next. We also have evidence of your involvement, Miss Carter. Her knees nearly buckled. That's when the panic finally broke through. You said she wouldn't know. Lena shouted at Ethan. The room froze. Silence. Absolute silence. Because, in that moment, she had just confessed. Ethan turned toward her in horror. Shut up, he hissed. But it was too late. The officers moved forward. Handcuffs clicked. Metal on metal. Final. Real. And suddenly, the future they had planned together was gone.
Just like that.
As they were being led toward the door, Ethan looked back at me one last time. His eyes were full of something I had never seen before. Not love. Not anger.
Fear.
How long? He asked quietly. I held his gaze. Long enough, I said. The door closed behind them, and the house went silent. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. But here's the part people don't talk about. Revenge doesn't feel like victory. Not at first. It feels like grief. Because the people you destroy are people you once loved. Weeks later, the charges became official. Attempted murder. Conspiracy.
Fraud.
Both of them facing years in prison. Financially, everything was already protected. Legally, I was safe. Physically, I recovered. The sedatives slowly left my system. My strength returned. But emotionally, healing took longer. Because betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It breaks your reality. I moved out of that house eventually. New place. New routines. New life. And one evening, months later, I caught my reflection in a window while walking past. For the first time, I didn't see a victim. I saw someone who survived. Someone who fought back. Someone who refused to disappear. And that's when I realized something that changed everything. They thought they were writing the end of my story, but they were only writing the moment. I took my life back. I wasn't supposed to be home that morning, but sometimes, the worst betrayal you survive becomes the reason you're still alive.